Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Matt Garvey. We are here to talk about making comics today, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to go out there and find your artist collaborators to draw your comics. Okay, so before we discuss how to go out there and actually find your collaborators, we need to have a chat about how people get paid to make comics, because there are a couple of different ways people get paid to make them. And it can be a little bit confusing if you don't know about this. So I just want to quickly run through a couple of different ways that this happens, just so you know this before you start going out and speaking to artists and going, will you make a comic with me, so you don't get confused. Okay, so what is a work for hire contract? Basically, if you were to get your dream job, working for a Marvel or DC, you get hired on what's called a work for hire contract. And under that contract, you usually get what's called a page rate. So it doesn't matter if you are a writer, artist, letterist or colorist, you get a set fee for every page you write for that comic. So say that comic is 20 pages long and you're the writer, for every page of that comic that you've written, you get a set fee, which is fantastic because, it's get money in the bank, it's guaranteed pay. But there is a downside for a work for hire contract, because the problem is you are what's classed as pretty much a hired gun. So you could be, if you get a job for Marvel writing Spider-Man and you've got the best villain since Venom and everyone loves it. Problem is once you've written that character and it's been published, you don't actually own that character anymore. Marvel own that character. So if that character, appears in a film or, animated series or games or toys, yes, you will get royalty checks for that along with, like the comics you're putting out. But that character does not belong to you, okay? That belongs to Marvel or DC if you're working for them. So that's what you need to understand with a work for hire contract and a page rate. So you are a hired gun, and anything you create belongs to them and not you. You're just brought in for your genius to create ideas to sell comics, okay? A great example of this is an interview I saw with Todd McFarlane recently. And if you don't know who Todd McFarlane is, there is no shame in it. Todd McFarlane is one of my personal heroes, and he is one of the co-founders of Image Comics, the creator of Spawn, also the co-creator of a character you may know called Venom. He created it with his co-writer David Michelian. I've got your name wrong, David, and you ever see this, I apologise for butchering your name. But basically, the reason how that character came to be was because Todd hated the black suit that, Spider-Man was in at the time, and he wanted him back in, the red and blue tights. So, they put their heads together and they came up with a character called Venom. Unfortunately, because it's under a work for hire contract, they do not own that character. Yes, they get co-credits for creating that character, but, when that Tom Hardy film came out a couple of years ago and made over $850 million, yes, they got a royalty check, but that royalty check is not as big as if it was a creator-owned book. So just to put into context, the work for hire thing is great because, you're getting paid page rates and it's money in the bank and guaranteed income, but you don't own anything you create. So let's talk about creator-owned books. Okay, so what is a create-your-own book? Well, I mentioned Todd McFarlane on Image Comics earlier, and Image Comics is, create-your-own paradise. So basically, your artist and your colorist, you band together and you create an amazing book. You pitch it to Image, and Image decide to put it out. That is a create-your-own book. Yes, Image will take a certain percentage of, the distribution costs and stuff like that, but everything is actually owned by you. You get a bigger slice of the pie. The only problem with doing a creator-owned book is, unlike the work for hire and the page rate, you are not getting paid ahead of time to make that comic, unless you guys, are able to negotiate, in advance to make your comic, which, does happen. So you need to be, good with your negotiations. But if you don't, you get paid what's called back end. And what back end basically means is you are working ahead of the time to get paid in the future, because your comics need to go out there. Need to go into the previews book, need to get ordered by comic shops, they need to order it, and then you get paid. So you may not get paid on that comic for a few months ahead of time. And the reason I'm telling you this is because you need to decide what kind of contract you want to enter into your collaborators when you're looking to make your comics. Now, I know some writers may disagree with me, claiming, without their ideas and scripts, artists would have nothing to draw. But I've said it once and I'll say it again. Without my artistic collaborators, and guys, I love you all, without those guys, all I would have would be, letters on a page. they're as much as the creative process as, you know, as the writer. That's why you never see my name in the credits of any of my comics as creator. It's literally written by and art by. That's it. So, but as I said, the reason I mention this is if you decide to hire an artist to help bring your ideas to life under a work for hire contract, you are going to be paying a much higher premium than getting a creator to work with you on a creator owned contract. And don't be surprised if they want a royalty clause within any kind of agreement that you make with them. So please just bear that in mind. But I would tend to, you know, not go for the work for hire contract if that's what you want to do, because it's not fair. So again, this leaves you with the creator owned option that I mentioned earlier, where you both get paid on the back end. And if you are a new creator, this is incredibly flawed too, because you are pinning all your hopes that your first comic, straight out of the gates gets picked up by a publisher, which is super, super rare. Plus the book needs to sell a shed load of comics to make sure that you both get paid months and months down the line. But doing it this way isn't fair for artists either. I mean, let's put this in context. I can write, and I've done it on this channel. I can write, a couple of comic pages in, under half an hour. I know it's a first draft, but it's, that's what I physically can do. So in theory, I could write a comic in 10 hours. But let's be realistic. I would do it over, 2 days. Over a weekend. So that's 2 days, and my work as a writer is done. I can do that around my day job and my family responsibilities, but an artist can't. Now, for an artist, it is a completely different kettle of fish, because it's going to take a comic artist between 6 and 8 hours to draw a single comic page. Say for example, it's going to take them 8 hours because they're working digitally, and they're inking straight over their rough pencils. So the 8 hours is a full working day. So say your comic is 20 pages long, and they decide to give themselves the weekend off. That means that artist is going to take an entire month to draw your comic from start to finish. Now put yourselves in their shoes. Would you work for an entire month, with a new writer on the hopes that that comic is going to get picked up? You're working a month ahead of time for no money, and you may see a paycheck in 4 months' time. You wouldn't do that. So, it's really hard to put artists in that position as well. So what I'm getting at is basically, as a writer, you need to pay your artist collaborators to work with you, not under a creator-owned contract, because that's not fair and you can't afford it when you're starting out. But you need to, make it beneficial to an artist to work with you, because artists need to make rent. They've got mouths to feed, they've got bills to pay. So that would be my advice, is you need to start saving up now to pay your collaborators to work with you. And guys, it's not just, new creators that, pay artist collaborators to work with them on the creator-owned books, while at the same time, splitting the ownership 50-50. Seasoned professionals do this too. A great example of this is Mark Millar, and if you don't know the name, I guarantee you will know the work, because Mark is responsible for writing, comics like Wanted, Kick-Ass and Kingsman that have all been turned into films. And prior to his Netflix deal, because I used to be a member of his forum Miller World, he would still pay his artist collaborators to work on the creator-owned comics while splitting the ownership as well. And I remember seeing an advert on there where he was looking for new creators, and he was paying in the regions of $10,000 per issue for an artist collaborator to draw their books. Not his book, but the book they create together. Now, I'm not saying you need to spend $10,000, to get your comic made, but you need to pay your artist collaborators something to work with you on your comics. And this goes for colorists, letterers, everyone that was involved in the comics, because in my last video, if you looked at, bad art, bad colors, bad letters, they're all going to hurt your comics. So you need to, pony up and pay your collaborators to make the best comic possible. And this is one of the reasons why I told you all to start small, with 4-page scripts, because you're more likely to find an artist that, that's also starting out on their comic making journey as well, that maybe, and I say maybe, willing to work for free. But, even if they don't, if you're starting with 4-page scripts, it's more feasible to pay an artist, to do 4 pages than it is to do 24. So you're not overextending yourself and spending your entire bankroll on a comic, because you might not enjoy making comics. So start small, 4 pages, pay an artist, or find someone that may be willing to work for free, and get used to making comics and see if you enjoy it. And also, I just want to throw a word of warning out there to you guys, because when you start making your first comics, if you're paying for art and paying for letters and colorists, you're going to lose money. It is that simple, unless you are the best writer and you can afford like the best artist, and that comics get picked up by Image and you get launched into the stratosphere, which is very, very rare on your first comic, you are going to lose money. So what I wanted to say is, please, please, please do not be one of those creators that's got delusions of grandeur and decides, I'm going to make the best comic ever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all that cost onto a credit card, or I'm going to take out a loan or something like that. I know creators that have done this and they're still paying off their loans, and it's a stupid way to do it. If you want to make comics, you will save up the money in your pocket to pay your collaborators to work for you. So please, I'm going to say it again, please, 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 do not get yourself into debt to make comics. And you may be one of those creators that come back to me and say, do you know what, Matt, I have found this amazing creator. They are willing to work for, back end pay to produce the comic pages so we can get it out there and pitch it to publishers. And if that happens for you guys, I'm happy for you. Hopefully it does happen. Unfortunately, in my experience, it doesn't tend to come to fruition. And that's purely because, as I've said before, artists are human beings. They've got mouths to feed, bills to pay. So it doesn't matter how passionate they are about that, that creator-owned comic that they want to make with you. When paying gigs come in, it's going to take priority. So that comic, they want to make with you kind of slips down. And it's very irregular that you get comic pages in your inbox. But do you know what is an incentive to get comic pages in your inbox? Pay. If you pay your artist collaborator to work with you, you are going to get your pages regularly. But also paying your collaborators also shows that you are as committed to that project as they are as well, and it makes them feel valued. So I'm going to keep saying it, pay your collaborators to work on your creator-owned books. And the last benefit I want to talk about when it comes to paying your artist collaborators to produce your comics is style. Because if you are paying a collaborator to work with you, you get to choose the style of artist that you want for your book. Because as I've said before, bad art, bad letters and bad colours, all they're going to do is hurt your story. So if you are paying, you can find the right artist style that fits your story, so you're going to produce a better comic. Which leads us to the question, Matt, where do I find my comic collaborators? And it's one of the most common questions that I get at Comic-Cons, which boggles my mind, because the best place to meet creators is at a Comic-Con. You're at a Comic-Con, have a walk around, introduce yourself to some artists, grab some business cards, make a connection, open up some communication and find out, what their rates would be to perhaps potentially work with you to create a comic. I know this year is very, very different with COVID and there are no Comic-Cons, but come 2021 and the world returns to normal, get out there and go to some Comic-Cons and meet some creators and see what, if you can introduce yourself to some great people. But as I said, because, there are no Comic-Cons at the moment, it's a lot harder to find collaborators. But, when I started out, like you, I didn't know where to find artists. So I did what most people do and I Googled it. And Google came back with some great recommendations, to find artist collaborators. And it recommended comic forums, especially those that, were run or affiliated with, comic creators like Brian Michael Bendis' Jinx Forum, or the one that I joined, which was Mark Millar's Miller World. Sadly, Mark Millar's Miller World is no longer about, neither is Jinx World. Miller World is now under the guise of The Carrier, which I suggest you all should join because it's a great forum full of really great comic fans and creators. But if you do decide to join a forum like this, the key to finding collaborators on these types of forums is not just joining them and start posting threads looking for artists, especially if you're not paying, because these forums are littered with these kinds of threads and most creators just see them and go, ugh, another writer looking for an artist to work for free. What you need to do is you need to become part of the community, get to know the mods and the regulars on the boards, and become friends. Maybe even post, a couple of 4-page stories on there, get some feedback, and you never know, you may inspire, an artist to bring that story to life, because remember, you need to get along before you go along. Or if you have a budget in place, you could pop over to other forums that I know, like Pencil Jack or Zwol. And what you do here, guys, is, join these guys and, put an advert out in a thread saying you're offering paid work. And I guarantee your DMs will be inundated with portfolios. Then all you need to do is pick artist styles that you like, speak to the artist, and come to some kind of arrangement with regards to, what you're paying and how you're going to pay it. Now, my top place to find collaborators is Twitter. I absolutely love Twitter. It has connected me to so many talented artists, colorists and letters you would not believe. Now, there are 2 ways you can use Twitter to find collaborators. One is open your DMs, send a tweet that you're looking for an artist on a paid collaboration and you want to see some portfolios, and you'll see that that tweet gets retweeted so much and your DMs fill up fast, because again, there are a plethora of artists out there looking for work. And the second way to use Twitter is to play the long game. And just like the Millar example that I used a little while ago, you need to join the community. You need to connect with creators. You need to like their work. And you know what? You need to retweet their work, because you'd be surprised how appreciative artists are of a retweet, because a retweet goes a long way. And engage with artists, be complimentary about the artwork, of artists that you like, and be genuine about it. And then after a while, some of them artists may start following you back. And then once you have a budget, maybe privately approach them, an artist that you like, via their DMs, and ask if they're available and see if they'd be interested in a paid collaboration. Or if they don't follow you back, artists always have websites, so you can always connect to them that way as well. Honestly, it is that easy to connect with creators. No artist is never going to be offended if someone comes to them offering them paid work, okay? So just go out there, connect with artists, and see what you can come up with. And that's another video done, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed that and found it useful. If you have, give us a thumbs up and put a nice comment in the comments section. I will see you in the next video. And like I keep always saying, and I'm going to say it in every single video that I do, if I can make comics, anyone can. And I'll see you next time.